like a page or really?
Nice.
Hi. We're professionals. The
That's how
director's
you.
like,
That's how you
I got-
direct her.
I know, right? No countdown,
we're
no
live.
little clicky box.
No.
She's just like, and we're rolling.
I didn't even
What is-
notice.
Yes. Welcome to the show.
I'm
With
so
that
sorry.
freeze frame.
That's the best.
No.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Well, look how I got in this situation.
Yeah, right.
Okay, cold open. I like that. I'm doing that more often.
All right.
Just randomly
Next time
pressing
we're
the
just-
button.
Does anybody have news? Click record. Well, welcome. She can't talk, so I'll do the intro. So, welcome to the Dresden Files podcast. We're your totally professional hosts, which is part of the quip that I was making right as she hit the record button. We're doing the 15th running episode of
Alignments.
It's the third, though, right? The third running episode?
Yes, it's
It's
the
the too
third,
many
but
of.
it's. I'm gonna say it's part one of the M characters.
Yeah, right. Yes. It's
Part one of
it's part
6.
3 of alignments, part 1 of M. Because seriously, Jim, dude,
You like M.
right? We were trying to alphabetize the M's, and the
Yeah, and
director
then-
decided to go with alphabet light. So
Yeah, they're all M's. They're all in the same category. I just like we're gonna fuck with the order a little bit because otherwise we will never leave fairies, which is also fun. But
Who would want to?
yeah,
Leave
fairies are
fairies?
awesome. Well, we were teasing last episode on one of these M characters. I want to give a moment for people to like try to guess which one. It was Justin's favorite that he was so excited about to argue about. Okay, go.
Millie. No, that's a different M name. In fact, that's an M name he doesn't even use. What the hell? You're
Yeah.
right. There are other M names.
Once in a while, there is something that he didn't actually use.
We haven't had a Megan yet. I don't believe.
Oh, don't give him ideas.
Yeah, that's too close to Margaret. Let's just veto it.
Yeah, because-
Granted, he has 3 of those.
Right.
I think we've had a Marshall.
Did we? Anyway, so you can look at us thinking, yes, it's Murphy. I was
Yes.
excited because you've got like versions of Murphy because I don't think the answer is static. So that's why I'm excited.
Of course not. It almost never is.
Well, yes, we did talk about how people, change and malleable, blah blah blah. But these aren't people; they're D&D characters, all right. So
Yes, over the course of, say, 16 years, D&D characters never change.
oh dang, don't make me think about
Mm.
stop, because I'll have an existential crisis about my D&D characters, which is really weird. So okay, so anyway,
The same as when I began. It's like a completely different person.
I know, right? Don't make me think about it. If we go by the law of Theseus' ship and all that, we're like 2 different people by now, or 3, depending on how you're counting. Like, no, okay. So anyway, Murphy.
Yeah, we're on topic today.
Please hold
Right.
all existential crises until after work time.
Right. So do we want to go book by book, or do you?
I mean, you could kind of, this chunk of books, that chunk of books, there's like different stages of her arc.
You could probably have 2 phases up until proven guilty, and I don't know quite when she starts becoming a friend and stops being restoration of faith. But proven guilty is where she gets busted down and she becomes more of a cop again. Right?
So she's lawful evil until grave peril. Is that what we're? No.
My goodness.
Yeah, so I mean, but it's an important thing, right? So the first 2 books, she's kind of a dick, right? And especially Full Moon, but she's definitely still lawful. She starts to open up a little bit in Summer Night, actually. So, well, it's both, right? Because in Grave Peril, she gets nommed on by the Nightmare, and that opens her eyes up, and that opens Dresden up to being like, well, if I told people what the fuck was actually going on, maybe this wouldn't have happened. So in Summer Night, he tries that. So she gets involved with the ogre slaying nonsense, which the
Murphy
ogre
gets
playing the
involved with an
ogre
ogre?
who's not the ogre dressed as the other ogre, that ogre. You're welcome.
Oh, I guess that was no.
and then I mean, so definitely proven guilty is a big one, right? Because she was doing the cop thing, but she's so far into Dresden's world that she's like, look, I know the cop stuff's important right now, but this other stuff is more important because cops got better things to do than get killed.
She crosses the line in Blood Rights. That's when she's like doing the thug vigilante thing instead of bringing in the cavalry, even though she tried.
Okay.
Dresden stopped her, and then she got the dirt that Mavra actually got on her.
And that's when the line actually occurs, I think.
Mhm.
You know. So, which movie quote? But yeah, and I was going to bring that up because that's when you get to see her in, you know, like you see her in, so you see her in Grave Peril as the Avenging Angel, and you see her in Blood Rights as the sullied Avenging Angel. So,
Mhm.
yeah, because the whole nightmare thing plus healing and whatever else, and then proven guilty. So anyway, so lawful, probably not surprising anybody. But are we more neutral or are we more good? Or is that what changes?
I think that's what changes. I'd say she goes from lawful neutral to lawful good. First, she's basically the mortal version of Morgan, and then after a time, she becomes a friend and ally and does the vigilante thing, trying to go for the good. She's always has the good thing at heart, but she sees how the law is insufficient. I think is part of her character shift.
So
Well-
she goes from lawful good to neutral good?
Or
I would say
chaotic
she's
good, even.
neutral to lawful good.
Would say she's chaotic good now, at
Because-
least.
yeah,
we're not there
chaotic
yet,
is-
yeah.
Chaotic good's the vigilante, in a way.
She seemed clearly chaotic good when Ghost Story and its surrounding books, essentially, because she has to go so far outside the law in order to get something that is really good done. But before, she tries to stick to it as much as she can. I mean, she faced down Tiny saying that this is my lawful duty, fuck off.
True.
Even though she does have to do the vigilante
Tiny
thing once in a while.
but fierce.
Right. Luckily, size is not part of the alignment. Otherwise, we'd have this whole other thing. So she's chaotic good tiny, and she's lawful good tiny, but no. So, but has she ever been actually lawful good? Like, we see her as an avenging angel, but more like literally an avenging angel when we see her through sight. But when she upholds the law, I mean, I guess she's doing it to keep the monsters from eating people, but she's doing it the right way. That's the lawful part. You know, she wants to do it by the book and whatnot, but
And no killing people. She insists on that, even though Dresden would insist on that too. She definitely insists on that. So
fair enough. And we think she's gone full on chaotic good by Ghost Story.
I would.
I don't think
I-
she's
Very
good in
Ghost
that one.
Story.
I don't think
You don't
she's
think
good
she's
in
good?
Ghost Story. She's willing to kill or give lip service to killing Fitz and the others.
She does frame it in the form of doing good things, but she's dipping very far in the chaotic pool.
I guess I don't recall this, so refresh my memory, Jacob.
It was, I think, when Aristides had them shoot at, and they injure what's her face, the one who's a little prescient, from White
Abigail?
Knight.
yeah, the order lady.
Yeah.
Is it Abigail?
It's
It
Abby,
might have
yeah.
been Abby, or was it Abby?
Okay.
What,
It's one of those
yeah,
two.
but so they shoot into Murphy's house, and they almost kill her, and then Murphy decides that, well, okay, so look what they did now. We're gonna kill them, or they deserve to die now. She's gone so far off of cop mode that she's now into, okay, well, these guys now deserve to die.
They didn't just hurt Abby; they actually did kill one of her neighbors.
Yeah, that might have been it too.
Yeah, and
I mean,
And
it
they
sounds
tried to kill all of them.
right, and it sounds totally avenging angel to me, but I kind of get the point though.
But she's in a really low place. That's her lowest point in the entire series. So I could see where she would dip down to chaotic neutral. Without,
I would say she's still good there. Just it's, she feels like they have they're outside the law, but they need to be stopped, and they have now killed civilians. They're they are monsters who needs to be stopped.
Yeah. And she keeps viewing them as they're extremely dangerous. We cannot contain them with the abilities that they apparently have, so they have to be eradicated instead of contained. She basically took the perspective that Dresden was trying to give her and proven guilty about warlocks and started regurgitating it.
Sansa sees them in the way, how Harry tried to say with the Renfields and the Black Court that, these are, either lost or evil. And she's kind of like taking that to that situation. They've done something evil. Normal people can't stop them, so we have to do it. And then she that's her kind of what she learned there with the Black Court, I think, anyway.
I'm definitely going to have to read it again, and I should have finally the Marsters version, so thank God for that. But part of it that's sticking in my brain, though, too, is really, she's still a cop, right? You shoot at cops, you kill a cop, that's the line where you start to see
what's
them.
Called the thin blue line, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, in a sense, right? So, yeah, I definitely see. I'll have to read it and try either of those perceptions. I'm not necessarily saying one or the other is right or wrong. I'm just that's what comes to mind with that kind of reaction. So
even before that, in Changes, he's kind of less lawful, more chaotic. With the even before that, back to when they interrogate Binder, it's that's not exactly a lawful way they handle him, and he is in police custody.
Yeah, interrogations get weird though, so that's
Can you move over? I can't see you and hit him in the nats from here.
Yeah, that's still theater though. That's still low theater.
Yeah.
So from the cop's perspective.
Well, it's not entirely theater. She does basically punch him in the face.
That's true.
Interesting. I wasn't going to take her all the way down to chaotic, but I'm definitely going to have to go read it with that in mind.
Yeah, she always seems very chaotic, but still chaotic good in Ghost Story.
I feel like she starts out lawful, and still, even when she's chaotic, she tries to act lawful, but she's chaotic.
Yeah.
Right.
In Ghost Story, she seems to give up the idea of being lawful because she's no longer a cop, not bound by those restrictions quite as much anymore. And she feels that they didn't serve her or serve the purpose she wanted it to for so long. Harry was dead. People were being picked off. Clearly, it's not enough.
Well, and I want to take it even past Skin Game or past Ghost Story into Skin Game. And think about how she deals with the swords, right? She knows how the sword needs to be used, but that can't be right. And that's why the sword got broken, is because she knew better and she still tried to take a whack at Nicodemus. And to me, that's very chaotic.
Yeah. I think she basically stays in chaotic good past Changes.
But I would agree with EG here that she does dip down during Ghost Story, because Ghost Story, the vignettes in Ghost Story where we see her act, that's not just representing how she is in the moment. I think that's representing basically the settled state where she's, in charge of the mortal gang of Chicago, or whatever their name is for that.
The Better Future Society.
Right, the Better Future Society. So she's in charge of that, but it's functioning basically as a gang against the Fomor, while staying in balance against Marcone. I think there's something to that, where she's at such a low point, she's dropped for the good.
Right.
And she's trying to just keep things stable, protect people.
I think the argument can definitely be made, right? She's in league fully with Marcone and seems all but on
partially.
his payroll.
Partially. I think she's partially.
She's taken advantage of most of his services, right? The other mercs all know her. They train together.
She's with him in a way she never would have been before.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I think it's her involvement is so indirect usually, and there's still two different forces where she negotiates for territory, where she's offered territory as payment.
Yeah,
she's still different.
Demanded, you have to give up this certain territory in order to get certain information, and that was it. So it was. I think it was just information about Molly, but she managed to get, I assume, drugs, prostitutes, and whatnot out of a certain area of Chicago. Everyone needs to reread Ghost Story.
I know.
It really
it
is not the
sucks.
worst book.
Yes,
Really,
it
it's
is
just not good.
so bad.
It's
why
not,
no one
it's not
remembers
the
it.
worst. It's not the you guys just listen to the audiobooks. That's the problem. And you
Well,
got,
yeah,
you
the
got,
audiobook.
I've
Charles
re-listened
Nelson,
to it.
Charles
I've
Nelson
really-
Riley doing the audiobook does not help you enjoy Ghost Story, whatever that
Yeah.
old guy was.
John
Well,
Glover.
it's
That's John Glover,
Yeah.
and he did it really well. I think. You're just used to butcher.
yuck, 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 yuck.
Well, there was the
Anyway.
backdoor excuse that since he was dead, his voice should sound different, so it worked out.
I mean, I've listened to both, so
I have
they're
never
both
listened to a
good.
single audiobook. I'm a purist. I read.
Yeah, I mean, then you wind up with funny shit. Like my brother only read them,
no.
and I was listening to Changes, and he's like, "That's not what Dresden sounds like," and I'm like, "You shut the hell up! That's Marsters. He is Dresden. That's it." To the
Yeah.
point where like he's not tall enough to be, and everybody wants to cast him. So
Mhm.
I've read and reread the books many times before I listened to the audiobooks just a couple weeks ago, and I'm of the firm opinion that that's not what Thomas sounds like. Thomas does not.
well, it's so you're telling me that the guy who played a vampire for like 1 billion years in Buffy the Vampire Slayer doesn't know what vampires sound like? I don't know, man.
That's
So-
correct. Right on the nose.
Well, Spike is older than Thomas. I mean, he's going to
Yeah.
have a different accent by dint of where he came from anyway.
Right. Okay, Murphy. So, does she start lawful neutral or lawful good?
Lawful good.
And
I
then
would say
she
start lawful good.
Lawful neutral.
she spends a small
How is she
stint in lawful
good?
neutral.
But lawful neutral.
Well, I would say definitely for the first 2 books she was lawful neutral, but
At a
maybe
minimum,
when
full moon.
yeah, right. Like she was very much. You might be telling me the truth, but you're a dick and I'm a bitch, and I'm gonna put you in handcuffs and knock your teeth out. So
And now everyone's dead around us.
And then in Stormfront, wasn't there that whole thing where she broke into his office and was
Yeah.
chased down by a scorpion? So yeah, so in
And
the
then
first two
blamed
books-
him on that.
in the first two
Right.
books and Restoration of Faith, if that's canon, she's not a good character in terms of alignment.
I thought she was good in Restoration of Faith, but we didn't really see her a ton, you know, like so.
It was just a
Eh,
cameo.
Yeah.
Well-
basically.
Okay, it's a short story. I'm not going to argue cameo and screen time and whatever, but anyway, so lawful neutral. She's definitely probably lawful good ish, right? But she's been, you know, the nightmare. Like she's been tainted in a way. She's been hurt, you know. So she starts to slide. Proven guilty. That's where she transfers over chaotic good, or do you think she's full on chaotic neutral by that point?
She skirks her responsibility. I think she's
That's
just neutral
fair.
good. She shirks her responsibility at SplatterCon to go on this rescue operation. So I don't think
a
that's
rescue
chaotic.
that was good because it was
That's
saving
good.
Molly. Yeah, so
I don't think that's lawful good. That's not lawful
no,
good.
no. I think at that point she's
No, it's
lawful
chaotic
neutral, or not
good.
lawful anything.
I don't think
She's
it's
neutral
chaotic.
good.
Neutral good, yeah.
No, chaotic.
Yeah, and I could say neutral good at least, but I mean, is she shirking her responsibility or is she doing the greatest good, right? Like, you know,
Well-
so and neutral good I guess would kind of fit into that because yep, I've got to break the rules now, but the rules are dumb. You know, it's kind of like the speed limit's 55, you know, unless there's an emergency. And it's like, yeah, okay, the law is we've got to track down and handcuff people and whatever. But when the xenomorph comes into town and starts nomming on people, that's not going to get put in lockup and interrogated and put on trial. So she has to hat up, for lack of a better, you know, turn of phrase here and go
the
after it.
circumstances were different. I don't think Murphy was that much necessary, or it should have appeared that she was that much necessary at the time. She's another fighter, but they already had a couple people who are going to do pretty well for themselves in a fight.
They
I mean,
had
it
she
turned
wasn't
out to be
doing it to
necessary,
protect.
but at the time that she chose to go,
Thomas
wasn't.
Charity. They only had 4 people total.
Well,
It's-
at the time, though, they thought that it was going to be fixed. They thought it was going to be Aurora, or not Aurora. Was it
Lily.
Lily. So at the time, they thought there were a lot more people. So that she volunteers to go along. I don't think, and SplatterCon was a very volatile situation. As far as you know, there was still going to be more nastiness coming out, and her
Okay.
expertise and knowledge could have been useful there too. So it's not Xenomorph versus speed limit, there's a bit more parity there.
Sure. No, I
And it's
get
not
you.
like she was going to stop the fetches. She was going to save Molly. She wasn't doing it to protect the people of SplatterCon. If that happened, great. So much better. But they were going there to save Molly, and that was it.
I think that there was also like this was the top fetch that took her. So you kill him, then he killed basically you stop the rest of them. I think it was dual oriented.
I mean, they didn't say it's it's not like cut off the head and the body will flounder thing. It wasn't really a concern that they mentioned.
But I don't think it was a concern that Murphy really considered either. I think
No, she didn't. She was there to go with Harry to save Molly.
And if necessary, to shirk the responsibility that she had at SplatterCon that she took upon herself in the first place and then dropped. So she wasn't even supposed to be at SplatterCon, but she was invited by Rollins.
Now, if you want to make a different argument, it could be, did she end up doing the greatest good because of who she saved and who that person ended up becoming? It just took 10 years down the line, let's say, for that good to show up.
There's no way for her to have known that. So
no,
right.
But like most of these things, it's situational.
Sure.
If you're going to weigh the good of the many against the good of the few, yeah, in that moment she chose the good of the few, but in the end, with a competent Winter Lady, that's for the good of all reality.
Yeah, but that's kind of the consequentialist position that I don't think is reflected in the D&D alignment system. The D&D alignment is really about the interior state of a person and how you acted in a situation, to your according to perceptions. So,
right. Okay. And so now we say what? Chaotic neutral? Is she gone that far?
No, she's still framing everything as good.
Okay, so chaotic good. She just makes bad choices.
Yeah, she got very chaotic, but still with good intentions.
That's good.
But I was going to kill him. Yeah, but you got to use a baseball bat. What have I told you about that time?
And I think by the time of Skin Game, she heals back up to be neutral good. She's just not lawful. I don't think she's still in that low point when she takes up the swords. She's still trying
chaotic
to do
good at that point. She's
just angry good. She's not chaotic.
No, she's chaotic good. She's just like I think Harry's chaotic good. I think at that point, certainly Murphy's chaotic good.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that the entire book is framed in every conceivable way as being a heist and therefore outside the law, right? But specifically, if taking it down to in the moment that she is facing off with Nicodemus, right? I'm trying to think even about the scope when go back to changes, right? And changes through Skin Game from the perspective of her being a wielder of the swords, right? It was a temporary thing. Harry offered it to her and she said, no way. The power is kind of scary and I'm not sure I'm ready for that. She picks up the sword again because Harry needs a backup, and then she fucks it up, but knowingly fucks it up, right? It wasn't like oops, did I do that? It was I know I shouldn't do this, but I really need to kill him. And
I know I shouldn't do this, but I know the rules, I know what will happen, kind of, but I think it's the right thing to do anyway.
Right.
Even though I know what the consequences will be.
Yeah,
so there's no way she can be lawful at that point. She still seems chaotic in how she handled some parts of that situation of when she had it hidden in the bazooka and she walked closer and Nick says, you're going to kill everyone instead of being more sane about this. She's, yep.
Right. It's those little decisions. Maybe, I'm not saying she's all, completely chaotic now, but it's those little decisions. And to me, that's just a bluff, so whatever. I'm not saying lawful people can't bluff, but, she knew what she had, but nobody else did, including Nicodemus. And so, it was great because he called her bluff, therefore revealing that she had the perfect bluff, right? So it's a great moment. It's one of those reasons why Skin Game, it's you get to the end and you're God damn it, I'm reading it again because that was fantastic. So,
and this is also why Skin Game is the best book.
Yep. And personally, I just think they get better and better. So
that seems like some hardcore recency bias there.
It could be, but it's true. All right. Do we have more to add to this, or? Do you want to do the next one?
Whoever says she's neutral good is crazy at any point.
Well, but so kind of breaking it down into the tropes, right? So what I remember discussing before, and maybe this is just my brain trying to add some, foundation to it that we can work with, like, lawful good, the crusader type, right? We're going to do good, but we're going to do it the right way. Chaotic good is kind of like he's your vigilante, he's your Robin Hood. In some cases, though not often, you'll see Batman lumped in there, maybe more like the Green Arrow, who's literally anyway. And then neutral good is like doing good however you can, right? So it's like, yeah, we'll follow the laws, but if the laws get in the way, fuck them. In a way, that seemed to be like what we had kind of talked about. So,
well, I mean, these kind of discussions might in fact be a way to, just ignore the D&D alignment system and use the 4th edition alignment system.
Nope, you're right out. Can you kick him out of? Can you kick him out of this?
There's only possible? There's only one true alignment system, and that's 5th edition. Anything else is bogus.
I mean, how do you 4th edition? God,
4th edition.
Next, you're going to tell me that
we do not speak of 4th edition.
You don't speak of 4th edition. There are 4.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they count it like Microsoft. Okay, we got 7, 8, and 10, and we've got 3 and 5. All right, that's how we count the
3.5.
3.5, right?
Sure, fine. We can have a 3.5. So,
shall we move to the next character?
Probably. I can't even. I'll deal with you later.
Okay, this one's going to be fun. Mab.
Oh, back to fairies. Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, she has no alignment. She's a force of nature. Okay, I got it out of my system.
God.
Oh, so unaligned, right? Unaligned.
Well, no, because that gets weird too. But I mean, I guess she would technically be. But to me, Mab's. I mean, she's lawful, and.
Yeah.
And chaotic, lawful
so
chaotic.
Well, when is she chaotic? Leah's fucking psycho fairy. When is Mab?
Leah's still. I mean, she as any fairy is. They're basically the lawful chaotic of. They're lawfully chaotic. They can't be.
Well, but once you get up to Mab, you kind of cut down on that. Like Maeve and Leah, you got the chaotic elements hardcore in some elements. But when you get to Mab,
infected. Yeah, and so Mab, I think the queens properly not infected. You see that in Cold Case. I think they're so constrained by what they are, that they work with that system to achieve the goal that they have. And I think Mab is not even evil. I just think she's lawful neutral. She's just queen of the Wicked Fairies. I don't think she's a Wicked Fairy herself.
Yeah, sure she is. Because given a choice, she's happy to take the painful, evil-ish end of things.
Indulge yourself.
So she clearly does some evil things. Some of those evil things are done for good purposes, like stealing children in order to add them to the war against the outsiders.
Okay, fair enough.
I steal children, yes, but with a higher purpose. You don't understand. I mean, and really, she handled Molly in a better way, which is like, I'm open to alternatives. I'll wait. That's why we steal children.
Well,
so
the stealing of children that really got me was, I guess, when he said like that, I first thought of Molly. I wasn't even thinking Gold Case, even though I just mentioned it. Molly being groomed to be a fairy, that is actually pretty evil. So maybe I'm wrong. Knowing that she would be taken away.
Actually evil. I mean, it's a responsibility she didn't ask for, but she is competent enough to be the Winter Lady. So greater good, like we mentioned before.
I kind of think she's true neutral.
Well, that's if you argue like that, though, you could argue for Nicodemus being lawful good. He's really not.
God, dude, you're on a shit list. What I'm saying
is,
swear to God.
What I'm saying is, you can't use that approach because Nicodemus thinks that he's going for the higher good, and he's really not.
Nicodemus tells himself he's going for the higher good.
He tells himself that, and he tells everyone else that, and he looks at it that way.
There's one issue with your narrative of everything is that, as Jim says, all evil people think they're good.
Right. Yes. Nobody got out of bed and decided.
That's also like one of the tropes every dungeon master pretty much gets told is that then you consider your villains or any storyteller like why are they doing it? They're not evil in their own mind. What is their
Right.
why are they doing what they're doing?
Well, so
Hell,
yeah,
I'm doing it to my party, so that makes sense.
I mean, I will say, like, Maeve, she's chaotic evil because the only thing that she ever cared about was off. So, like, there's clearly some evil through and through. She just thinks that good is her.
Yeah, it's so Mab, lawful. She wrote the goddamn laws, right? She wrote the Unseelie Accords, and
Okay, that's a
and she's in line with her nature. And again, I'm okay with entertaining her as a chaotic being. Show me where she was chaotic. I can't think of an instance, right? So I think she's lawful. We can make the arguments for neutral or evil. I'm concerned about some of you guys, but I'm saying evil because she definitely. I mean, she's not quite mustache twirly evil, right? And she's the evil who's on our side, but yeah, she. Like Jacob says, she doesn't exactly shy away from doing the hard thing because it's there. You know, it'd be like, oh, well, maybe I should do anything other than steal children because stealing children's wrong. She's just like, nope, that's the only way. We better do it.
She did ask for alternatives. She was open to suggestions.
Right.
Was she open to suggestions with Lloyd Slate? Because I'm pretty sure she called the Romans hobbyists in their forms of torture.
That's a great point.
Chaotic.
That's a bit.
I'm not saying chaotic. I'm saying evil.
Sure.
She delights in her torture.
And no, and to me, she was meting out her justice. So
which is fine, but
she didn't indiscriminately. She didn't say, "Okay, Lloyd, Jacob, and fuck you today because today's your unlucky day. We're going to torture you guys for the next 6 years." She said, "You have fucked me off for the last time, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows about it." Like, yeah. So
you know, she's not chaotic.
I thought of something that would go even better for her being lawful. And it's not just that she wrote the laws, but the way she wrote the laws. So Cold Case, right? She says to Molly, it would be unfair to give as law to everyone else what we do not ourselves bear. So I think that principle of justice is discretionary in her, where it's hard to tell with fairies because there's not a lot that is discretionary, but that is discretionary, presumably. And that's how she did it. So if she had a choice in that, then that's a pretty strong indication that she has some real sense of justice, and that's mostly what motivates her. But if so, then she might be more amoral and then just lawful neutral rather than lawful evil. But I think that's the only possibility here.
Right. Yeah. Well, and
just amoral.
You get into that weird thing where it's like there's a difference between being true neutral and unaligned, right? You know, so like whatever. But to me that starts getting way off into the weeds, and for our purposes I'm gonna say she's lawful evil. So because I wasn't even thinking the Lloyd Slate thing, but to me it was like, yep, we're gonna put 2 arrows in the bullseye on evil on that one. So
and not only that, when they bring him onto the table, she very specifically, I think it was when they brought him onto the table, she very specifically says, I am somewhat proud of this work. Of his torture. I mean, she's happy with what she did.
Right.
That goes beyond amoral.
Yeah, okay. I keep going back and forth. Yeah, I keep agreeing with the last person who talked.
See? Recency bias. Recency bias. So we'll just accept that that's correct.
If we say we should talk about Morgan next, then you would agree?
No, I'm not finished with that because I'm still trying to process shit. It's like,
what's left to process?
You have all this evidence of her being lawful evil, and it's good evidence, but then it's just like outer gates. I'm sorry. Like, that is kind of big.
That's the law part, not necessarily the evil part. She defends the gates because it's necessary. How she defends the gates makes her an evil psycho bitch.
But but this is smaller decisions where she has a discretion, like E.G. said. That's I think it's more the fairies were created, right? Weren't they created? Word of Jim.
I think that's the
charter of. This?
I think that's the argument. Is it a word of Jim?
It's that the she specifically were created. The fairies probably existed before that, and they just built the she out of them.
So the courts of the she were constructed, but the fairies themselves were indigenous, I think.
Probably.
Well,
Yeah,
the
more or
fairies
less.
themselves were probably more like Toot, and then they were kind of built up from there. Like
Mm,
the way
fair
Toot
enough.
is growing, he might turn into a she.
Yeah, there's a couple of conflicting ones that go back and forth to their origins, mostly because I don't think he wants to give away what it is yet. But essentially, fairies are fairies. The she were created with a purpose, probably off the existing foundation of the fairies. There were fairies that had alignments to the court loosely, but maybe the courts themselves didn't exist. And then when they were made, they just kind of got shuffled into it, and everything's still mostly wild fae anyway. So the
Right.
fairies are the foundation. The she themselves either grew or were created or evolved. Whatever definition you want to give it.
Do we think a little off tension here? Do we think that by the end of the series, Toot might actually be basically a she?
That's a pretty popular theory, and
It is.
think the
I hope
intent's
not, but I think it is probably going to head that way. Yeah.
right.
I still don't feel settled about Mab.
What? Go ahead. What's the argument?
I don't have one. I just like there's just
You
moments
just want her
that
to be,
right.
but I
stick
don't
out.
want her to be lawful evil.
It
It's
just doesn't
almost
seem
as if the
fully right.
character's really complex. Like,
Right.
It's kind of like the
Morale is
moments that stick
hard.
out to me of her being not exactly evil are
Sure.
how she handled Maeve.
Well, she can't murder everybody all the time. She wouldn't get anything done.
But it wasn't. I mean, she orchestrated the death of her daughter. Okay,
Yeah.
but she gave Maeve opportunities to not do whatever, like forced her into that. And she was trying to actually save her daughter. Whether it's because it was good or because, like, my daughter matters more than yours, whatever, things like that. Like, and her pain around that situation, it strikes me as not evil.
Well,
How she
she's
handled
evil.
Molly.
She's not a monster. Oh, wait, no, she's the queen of monsters. Never mind.
I mean, and how she handles Molly, she let Molly fall into a bad situation kind of because Molly wasn't listening enough a whole lot, but she's not being cruel exactly. She's
Yeah.
just kind of showing harsh realities.
And she is trying to warn her at times in her indirect way, probably constrained by the loss that down upon her by Mother Winter, the only original fairy queen, to some degree.
Additionally,
of-
do we think she was as patient and as understanding with her own daughter as she has been with Molly? She could have simply learned a more effective method this time around.
Well, yeah,
She's adaptable at a minimum. She will
But
do
she
what
was
she
a-
needs to do.
she was very indulgent to Maeve. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what I'm
She's-
saying. She was
said
indulgent
much.
to her, but I also don't think she was necessarily as I hesitate to say hands off, but she's kind of letting Molly find her own way. And I feel like with Maeve, she probably was very much, no, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and you better damn well do what I tell you to do.
this
And
is
yet
how
she
we
was
do.
hands off with Maeve all the way up through a summer night. Basically, when Lloyd Slate is like, I'm never letting Maeve choose the help again. Like, so she gave Maeve her own headway.
Right. I'm saying when she started out, she was probably very much of a not what she's doing with Molly now.
Right. And
Now, maybe
learned
she
from
saw parts of herself in Maeve that she felt she could correct easier, or whatever you want to give the motherly argument if there was one to be had. But being that it was her own daughter, she probably had certain expectations of her that she doesn't necessarily immediately have with Molly.
Possibly.
I mean, I'm leaning towards lawful neutral personally. It's not exactly evil, not exactly good, but she's certainly lawful.
There's another moment that stands out to me. It was in Summer Night when she was talking about free will. Everyone who doesn't have it wants it. She basically talked about it as if it is objectively a good thing. And there might be times when, like, all of the fairies have to impinge on that because of all the balance and their promises and everything that they're bound to. But she seems to still strive towards kind of like the good thing of free will when she can.
Is that the
That
case,
makes
or
sense.
is it that she just finds it an easily manipulatable thing?
It seems from my impression of that conversation, she like that is objectively a good thing, and everyone wants it.
And she had it once. She was mortal once, right? So at some point, she lost that and went through the same thing that Molly went through, or is going through, or went through, and we're not sure where they'll be at by peace talks, but and she longs for that again. I think is the best read on the situation with her and free will.
No, I'm saying evil. I'm sorry. Like I get what you're saying about the motherly argument, and I get what you're saying about like in a weird kind of way fostering, like nurturing Molly a little bit, right? But I mean that doesn't, to me, that doesn't balance or offset the tortured for years and being proud of it, and the stealing children because she sees it as the only way. Like those things are two giant lawful evil pillars in my mind. You know, like that the whole point, like the compelling point of the, you know, the sympathetic villain, especially for the lawful evil, is like, yes, I'm evil, but there's no other way. Like that's the whole trope to me, you know, in a way. It's like the lawful evil done right is that kind of compelling villain, and I think that's where Nicodemus comes in as well. And you know, that's that whole side of thing is like when you look at it from their perspective, you do kind of get drawn into it, and you're like, actually, hold on, maybe he's not entirely wrong. I don't agree with his methods, but he's got the right ideas, you know. And I think Mab is in that kind of thing, but I think she's very evil in my mind. Like there are times where I wanted to say the lawful neutral just because it's like, yeah, but she's our bad guy, right? You know, but I think fully objectively out there, I mean, maybe it is neutral in the sense that she's capable of both, you know, that she is the nurturer on one hand and the murderer on the other, but well, torturer, she didn't kill anybody, right? So but
well, the mortals anyway.
How much of that anger between directed at Lloyd Slate might have been some kind of retribution for the situation that Maeve got in at around that time, because Maeve got infected, right?
Maeve got infected
from Leah.
Yeah.
From the
Yeah.
Right. But was Lloyd Slate involved in the situation at all?
I don't think so.
No, but
Well,
it could be like, you represent everything that I hate in my daughter, you know, and he becomes the punching bag. Like,
Plus,
are you
it's not
telling me
like-
that if Mab has a particularly bad day, she's like, I'll be in my dungeon, you know, with Lloyd Slate? Like,
Yeah.
I'll go hang with Lloyd.
right.
Plus, she doesn't seem to take her frustrations out on the person who actually got to her daughter in the same way that she does on Slate, who, by all accounts, had nothing to do with it.
She destroyed the Red Court.
No, I'm saying Leah. Yes,
Yeah.
the Red
Leah.
Court or whatever,
But
but she
Leah
was still the
was-
conduit.
Leah was
infected,
right, and then kind of
Yeah.
it wasn't her anymore.
Right.
Right, but that's what I'm
So-
saying. So if you're going to go that route and and say that she recognizes that it wasn't really Leah's fault, you know, how could she do the same with Slate?
Well, it wasn't Slate's fault. She's just like, he betrayed me, and so I feel justified in taking shit out of him.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lloyd's actions essentially led to the death of Aurora for whatever she might feel towards her niece.
I think that gives Titania a better reason to go after him
Yes.
than Mab.
But the Summer Queen does not get to have access to the Winter Knight.
That would have been a good way to bond
Yeah.
over and end the relationship if you
Mutual
give Slate over to
torturing.
Titania for a little bit.
I've got you a present.
I got you a winter night.
Yeah.
Except that would probably lead to his death more than him staying in tortured limbo. And at that point, she was using that against Harry to get him to be the Winter Knight.
Right.
There was lots of
True.
purposes.
But
for
Titania
Lloyd.
also basically says something to the effect of, "You think my sister knows torture?" I think she says it to Harry, or you think my sister knows torture, or something to that effect. That the things I could do to you, when she's screaming at Harry.
Mhm.
So I think she would have been inclined to make it last at least for a little while. She probably would have killed him a lot sooner than Mab did. Absolutely.
Yeah, which would have
But
upset the balance more. Even
I was going to
more
say,
than she
or
did.
never, because he still had the mantle of the knight as long as he was alive. So maybe she would have never killed him, never given him back.
And
yeah,
permanently
The whole
upset the
thing
balance.
anyway.
well, the ideal is this is an olive branch. Mab's not just giving him,
Right.
to her willy nilly and being like, okay, maybe
whatever you
feel free to
want.
give me my mantle back.
Yeah. Fuck. That was
What have I
short sighted.
Besides, if she
I-
kills him, then the mantle goes away.
Right.
It goes right back to Mab or Maeve, whoever's closer.
So we might as well move on because we're probably not going to get anywhere else on that conversation. And it doesn't. Good segue
Gosh.
into Marcone. I do think that was a great suggestion, Ben.
Yeah, just because if Mab is lawful evil, and I know we're setting that aside, then the point of these alignment systems, you have to have multiple characters. You have to be able to have multiple characters in the single alignment that have different personalities. How much is the personality? How much is the alignment? And with Marcone, he's very much lawful evil, but in a very different way than Mab, because I think it's still directed towards organizing crime for the sake of avoiding
Civilian casualties.
Yeah. Right?
Mm-hmm.
These are the one mistake. That's the pretty clear motivation. And he shows real remorse, but what he's doing is still evil, very clearly evil. Even if he's sad and he's tearing up, in Minnesota or wherever that one, rest home is, in death masks at the very end.
Yeah, that's fair.
So he's still evil, though, right? I would think. I don't know. Maybe we would.
I'm actually more inclined to say he's probably the closest thing to a true neutral character in the books.
Yeah,
Really?
I think he venges towards neutral more than evil.
Mm.
He's very much a can take it or leave it kind of guy. Like, if you know what I mean.
I almost would say lawful evil. He is kind of lawful, not evil, but lawful something, because if you cross him, he makes sure you pay for it. But if you don't cross him, then he leaves you alone.
And almost wistfully,
Unless you
happy to leave you alone. He would rather leave you alone, but
Yes.
it's just business.
He will pay you to go away more than fuck with you.
Right. The retainer he offers Dresden, I think, at least once, if not a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
That was wow! It's like I got it in stereo.
All right then.
Oh. I think with the the drugs and prostitutes and whatever, he does it in a way that keeps people safe. And I think you have a hard time arguing that those are necessarily evil because you get into certain issues of paternalism at that point.
Depends on how much of a premium you put on a human life. If killing's evil, then I mean, granted, obviously it's situational and there's always an argument to be made, but his body count is high enough that I don't think you can say that it necessarily is good. And it's trending away from neutral.
He does literally have hitters.
Hmm.
Yeah.
They're just a way of doing business.
You're telling me that Hendrix and Guard have never offed anybody? Because he decided...
Like troubleshooters, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
when those
troubleshooters. Let's fucking call them murderers.
They're called button men.
Let's not glorify the mob life for a minute.
Oh, wasn't Bony Tony one of his hitters too? And he-
No, he was just a thief.
Was
And then
he?
he got killed by Gravane.
Oh,
Somebody
right.
in that book
Yeah.
was mentioned as being a hitter, though.
Well, yeah, because that was no. I'm crossing
He
books.
was a thief, wasn't he? Like he's
Yeah, Bony Tony was the thief that found the book
Smuggler.
in Deadbeat, and Gravane offed him and then realized that they needed the USB chip from his body. I don't remember a hitter mentioned in that book.
No, yeah, Tony was the
Death-
smuggler.
Death
Yeah.
Masks. There was the hitter, right? And then there's
There was
is it
a
Small
hitter
Favor?
who was on Marcone's payroll that was trying to kill the priest, but Harry was kind of caught in the crossfire, and Marcone had no idea of that.
Well, yeah,
Well, one
but
of them
he
was
still
Hendrix,
had
too.
him on his payroll. Like
Yes,
that's
but they were trying to kill the priest that happened to be a Denarian, and they knew that.
still with the murder. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
But
if
it
you
did.
murder a murderer, is it evil?
Also, wasn't that woman who
Yes.
there was a woman who was like pretending to get beat up by was it Kane maybe?
Oh,
And
yes.
I
Right.
think she's described as one of his wet works guys.
Eh?
One of his
she was one of his informants. I thought.
Oh,
Like,
is this an Aftermath?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
so, right?
Yeah.
Information on Fillmore to get Murphy there.
Right. Well, and I'm thinking even in Small Favor, right? You have the whole vacuum of power, and like his head hitter dude was like, "It's time for me to make my move and replace the boss and whatever," right?
Yeah, and he immediately started like hitting women. So
Right.
that dude was clearly evil, and Marcone was the guy keeping him in order and containing it.
one of his captains.
I think, especially with
You
the
need to
description
learn
Jake
the
gave us,
organization of the Cosa
lawful
Nostra.
neutral.
Well, I mean, yeah, if there's another argument to be made for that too. If a mercenary is the standard example of a neutral character, then those who hire mercenaries would, or would deal with them at all, would seem to be, if you buy them off or not. It seems to be a very similar vein of work to be the Baron of Chicago and to be a mercenary. I think there's some differences, but I don't know if they're sufficiently different in a D&D alignment framework to say that there's difference. That was kind of a half thought.
It was a good half thought.
It was very Doctor Who. That one got away from me a little bit.
I mean, lawful. I don't know. To me, lawful implies not just following, not so much your own moral code. Then you can make almost anyone lawful, but more the law of the land, or the laws that.
He has all the necessary paperwork to make his things lawful. I'm sure of it.
Well, right, or not.
I kind of feel like it's just like true neutral, leaning towards actually being not so much evil, but more like just like pragmatic, right? Right? Like he's like we're in a dirty business. If you cross me, I'm gonna have to take care of you. But other than that, he won't he doesn't want to hurt civilians. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He'll hurt people if he has to. But
it is a lot better for business when people are happy and have more money to spend on his prostitutes and drugs.
And all kinds of other scams and shit.
Which are, as we know, wholly neutral and or good things.
I mean, I would argue that even,
I mean, it takes good care of the prostitutes. You don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
They get like health care.
They wear tracksuits. It's awesome.
You know, right?
I mean, have you seen Sopranos?
These wealthy older white men work out and improve their health.
Because that's what this world needs.
Yes.
Like, I think he's more like, if you have seen The Sopranos, he's way more of a good guy than Tony Soprano is, and Tony Soprano is not even that evil. Like,
well, yeah, I look at him more, if not quite. He's more in the Vito Corleone brand of gangster, but I don't think you can make the argument that Vito was good to his family, and he seems nice and he's charismatic, and you want to root for him, but you can't call him a good or neutral person.
I don't think he's an evil person.
So we're saying on the range of diabolical, crazy murderers to like, he's kind of not so much a bad guy. You're saying he's kind of not so much a bad guy because he's not nearly as evil as this other guy. Like
clearly.
Well, but
he could be worse. That makes him not evil, right?
He could be much worse. He's like actually trying to do the better thing in his evil schemes.
But Justin, you know the system you just described is not the D&D 5th edition alignment system. It's the D&D 4th edition alignment system that you just described.
I don't know what you're talking about. So since there is no D&D 4th edition, so
I'm just saying but the system is not a single spectrum. Marcone is a better guy than a Mab or a Tony Soprano, but he's still dealing with things that do actual harm to people.
So let's
even if you put aside prostitution, we're still talking drugs, right?
Are drugs like
hardcore drugs,
bad?
Like hardcore drugs,
right?
Like I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't
think so. I'm not talking
your
like marijuana,
your cocaine, your meth, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Heroin, cocaine, all those. Yes, but
it messes up your face.
That's evil. That's it. Marcone's evil in my book. So don't mess with the face.
Heroin and meth, sure, those are bad, but
and that's what I'm talking about.
I think you get into this philosophical quibble that you have to like: is it bad because people have access to them, or is it bad to restrict their access to something that they, as like a knowledgeable, consenting adult, should be able to make a choice? Is it like, is heroin actually worse than alcohol? When alcohol leads to like the drunk driving accidents and like
heroin's worse than alcohol. I wouldn't
argue that.
But alcohol is more on like it's alcohol and weed, or maybe cocaine. That's not even that bad actually. Like,
so now like cocaine is.
but it is actually not that bad. It's not
This is hold on. I think you guys are right in the middle of that slippery slope everybody keeps talking about. Like you might be halfway down that slippery slope right now.
I was just like, if you're saying that dealing drugs is automatically evil, you have to justify it.
I don't think
I think we're talking about the relative evilness of drugs now. Okay, so we're saying marijuana and alcohol seems to be mostly okay. Cocaine probably apparently mostly okay according to.
It's not like from what I understand, not even as addictive as
according
alcohol.
to Coca-Cola Company, and then heroin and everything on the far. Like, what about crocodile? Where's
That's
that on
bad.
the evilness scale? Like
That's
Crocodile?
but they're consenting up. Have you not heard of that? Oh
He's
god,
the
dude.
crocodile
Oh,
on
man.
heroin.
Don't go Google that if you've got a weak stomach. So
Oh wow, okay.
because that's
Your
way on
issues
the
with
end.
like it messes up your face. It's like your entire body.
It's
Your
like
body like dissolves.
that rot your skin and shit. So
I think there's a meaningful when people do self-harm and you participate in that, or you're an accessory to that. I think some of the guilt of that still transfers to you. So that's
think
where
that
I would
directly,
respond to your actual
like
question.
contradicts your previous conversation about mercenaries.
Well, that's in the framework of a D&D alignment system. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, that's true.
and now we know why this argument is dumb, right, Jacob? So no. Yeah. There you go.
And yet here we are, episode 2.
Three. And we got so many more to go.
I only count 2
one.
because I've only been
Episode
part
1 of the M's.
Yeah, this is part 3 of alignments, part 1 of M's.
Right.
And we're actually almost out of time.
You
Right.
can't prove
The
that.
Phantom Emis.
No.
All right, that's strike 3 as far as I can see.
Yeah,
That
right.
was-
Well, luckily we're at the end of the show, so we'll just not invite you
End
back,
of the show and end of when Benjamin got on this podcast.
right?
4th edition puns. No.
Summer night. Oh man.
Well, it depends. Are we going to like let us
Someone
bleed
might.
over 7 minutes since somebody decided to start the podcast a little early? Or paying attention?
It was still technically a little late. Like you should have like kind of at that point I was able to just go. I will defend my point. That was amazing also.
Yeah, that was
So
a very
is Direct
chaotic,
Alex.
evil decision on your part.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
Director
was.
Alex is chaotic evil.
Oh, yeah.
We're
Yeah, if you
Neutral.
guys aren't sure, yes. Mm.
plug
definitely
shit,
chaotic.
Oh, okay. So we're pulling the plug, so it's time to
Yeah.
plug shit.
apparently.
Okay. So we are part of the. Are you just going to turn this off in the middle of me plugging shit, or
Yep.
is that how this is going to work?
It's a risk.
On the same face you had when she started it.
Right. Okay, so we're a part of the Broken Jars Network. We've got other podcasts, so if you like us, then maybe you guys want to check them out as well. Am I talking to myself right now? No.
No, you're good.
So we've got Dangerous to Go Alone, which is a podcast about nerd and geek culture. We've got the Great Scott podcast, which is about The Office. And then we've got High Fantasy, which also has the director on it.
Yes, if you want to see other crazy shit I do to people. Apparently.
Chaotic evil things. So what's your guys' next show?
Probably Dresden 2.0. I don't know.
You should do like the Lord of the Rings alignment system. I want to know what Gandalf is. I'm just
Chaotic good. That was easy.
okay. So, and then we've got a relative new addition. We've got Sim Talk, which is done by Jacob, and he talks about simulations and stuff.
And then the upcoming podcast of Andreas and Justin talking about programmer shit.
Yeah, how far into that conversation were we when you turned on the recording? I don't remember.
I think we were done.
Oh, yeah, we were
Okay.
done with that.
Okay, so spoiler alert, we were toying around with other things. We'll see. So
We'll see if Justin can get over his stage fright.
it's not stage fright, it's like it's something else, whatever. Clear